figured out. Brian Polian was here this morning talking with the guys on OTB. If you missed the entire interview, you want to go check it out. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all of that. But we're going to give you a little bit of sound from it right here. And I thought he was really, really good coming in with the guys this morning. They had a long conversation with him. The first bite we're going to play from him is talking about what the staff needed to do to immediately address roster needs and where they went first.
We have as it relates to transfers specifically, we had a niche in the sense that there were a lot of really good players that were born and raised in Louisiana that went other places, and the moment LSU contacted them or got involved, there was automatic interest because guys want to be home and they wanted to be Tigers. And so that was an advantage that we found pretty quickly in the portal, and we were identifying those guys, like who from the home state.
So for me, every recruiting situation is different. So you can't paint it all with a broad brush. When I hear him say that, and I believe it, that's why I feel the way I do about recruiting in an NIL world. There are still going to be guys that may leave the state if there's a better deal out there. But there are always going to be a faction of players that have grown up in this state that want to play in Baton Rouge. And even though these guys went to Louisiana Lafayette and went to Oklahoma State and went to Arkansas and went to other places, the draw to come back and play here is always going to exist. And as long as you can supplement that with a little bit, whether it's playing time or whether it's an NIL deal or it's some other hook, that's going to be a big deal. And I think for those that believe that LSU won't be able to keep up because Texas and A&M and Bama are going to buy all the players, I think LSU will keep up because of this.
Yeah, I do too, 100%. I think that's why it was so important to kind of change the trajectory of where this program was going, because there's an aura, there's a mystique for guys from the state of Louisiana to put that purple and gold on. But if you keep having 6 and 6 seasons, 6 and 7 seasons, it's not going to have that same aura. So you got to get the standard back. But I think still in that there's so many guys, including myself, who's from this great state, and all you want to do is put the purple and gold on. And so it doesn't matter what pitch you're hearing. Just putting that purple and gold on Saturday nights in Death Valley is a dream for a lot of kids. So it's not the worst thing in the world to go be an LSU football player. You're getting all the perks and everything else that's out there. So I think Coach Polian and obviously the rest of the staff, they've done a phenomenal job. And to hear them say that they created an entire staff, dedicated, or entire database, I should say, dedicated to all the guys that's from the state and went elsewhere, and they're keeping track of those guys. I think that's really important because transfer portal is going to be active, and it's not slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. I mean, you wonder kind of what some of these coaches are doing in the offseason. You don't have a game. Well, they've got to prepare for everything that is coming when they are in a time crunch. And he did say that everybody that goes and signs a D1 scholarship out of the state of Louisiana that doesn't come into LSU goes into a database that they have there, and if they go into the transfer portal, boom, they can pick it up. I heard him earlier talking about looking into some film on a computer when guys go into the transfer portal. It's a whole different world. And his second point here that we'll go to the sound is the new landscape of college football and how this staff had to kind of adjust to it once they got here.
Education's and the scholarship's enough, and once you sign, you're locked in. But there is a happy medium somewhere,
right? And
we've got to find it. But until we do, our job as coaches is to adjust to the landscape that we have to work within, and we got to make it work.
And that's the point. You hear, and I've said many times that I think guys are going to retire younger once they've got all this money because they don't want to deal with this. But the guys that do, making excuses about it and whining, probably not going to help you.
Yeah.
You just got to go do it.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to. I think that the schools that are proactive, they've taken full advantage of it. You've seen Texas. We've seen Texas A&M. We've seen some of these schools that aren't scared to kind of jump ahead of this NIL thing and not bash it and say, oh, it's terrible for college football. Okay, you keep thinking that, and these other schools are going to keep getting these 4- and 5-star players. So you got to adapt with the times. And I think the programs that are going to take full advantage of it, they're going to reap the most dividends early on in this thing because, they got ahead of it. And so I think LSU's, not where they want to be as far as NIL, but I think they're doing a lot of stuff now to kind of catch up with that. And if they can do that and recruit the state of Louisiana, they'll be in a great spot.
It's the thing that I keep going back to in all sports, and Matt McMahon just proved it. So you're never at LSU in baseball, basketball, and football. You're never that far away. Like, there's no such thing as really like a rebuild. Do I think expectations are a little bit down for this LSU football season? Right now in June, I do. I don't know what happens, come Labor Day. I have a feeling they ramp up a bajillion %, and the first time they lose, everybody goes nuts. But right now, I think but there is no, you got to get this thing done by year 3. Like, with the transfer portal and with the way you can overhaul a roster overnight, like, pretty much have to go at LSU. If you take the job at Georgia Southern or Central Michigan, it may take some more time. Like, I got you. But here, I mean, you can just go get guys, and that's why, again, there's some positives and negatives to all this stuff that is happening that's new. But at LSU, like, there is no real like rebuild the whole thing. You just kind of go fill your needs.
Yeah, you definitely do. And I think with LSU, the job that kind of the previous staff did in recruiting, there's a lot of guys, and that's kind of why this roster was so bare. A lot of really talented players left this roster. So at LSU, like you said, you're going to always have that board or that pool of guys that you can recruit and get to come to this team. And now with the transfer portal, you say, like Coach Polian said, that they're doing their due diligence to find guys that want to come play for LSU, especially from the state of Louisiana, and I think that's a great place to start.
One more piece of sound from Brian Polian, talking about a real downside of the new era of college football.
There was a stat that the NCAA put out this year, and it was almost like a little bit of a warning. 500 less high school kids signed national letter of intent this year throughout.
500?
500. And I don't necessarily like that. I don't think that's a good stat. I do believe, and we're seeing what's happening in recruiting now, is high school coaches are telling their recruitable student athletes, commit. Don't take this into your senior year, because if you take it in your senior year, they might decide they're going to the portal instead of taking your commitment. So I think it's speeding up the process a little bit too.
And that's a bit of a downside. He went on to talk about junior colleges and how that's being devalued as well, because why go to a junior college to get a kid who, for one reason or another, if you're in junior college, like, there's some sort of issue, whether it's off the field or in the classroom, or you weren't, undersized or something, like, you don't have a 5-star heading to junior college by choice. That's just, that's the nature of that and of that avenue. But that's a bummer to have opportunities from junior college players and high school kids be lessened that much. Just kind of a downside. There's always another side to every story.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with the NCAA. It's kind of a revolving door. They keep opening. They kind of patch one issue, and then they open up a whole new world of issues. And I know when I kind of first heard the 85 scholarship thing, I thought with the transfer portal, it was a great idea, because a lot of these teams they're bare. It's like you only got 7 guys, and man, we need more than that. We lost 20 guys, so. I thought there it was solid, but this is the adverse side of that. Now the high school kids are going to suffer a bit, because, why go get this unproven high school kid when I can go get a freshman that I saw play at a high level and, have him for 2 more years, rather than, taking a chance on a guy that, may not pan out. So it's going to be revolving as we go, but I still do like the 85 rule of just, however you get them in, you get them in. It's just unfortunate the high school kids are going to take the brunt of it.
Yeah, and you hear him say, like, you got high school coaches saying, hey, go ahead and commit. And you know how much if you commit when you're right after your sophomore year or something, your position coach isn't going to be there by the time you're a sophomore in college. Like, no position coach is there for 5 years. They move on somewhere. It's a total revolving door. So much changes over the course of 2 years, and that just creates some confusion at the end when it comes to the time to sign. Do you still feel the same way you did? Have you learned some new things? Have you gotten different offers? It just, when you speed the process up like that, it gets a little bit cloudier. Again, I don't necessarily think that all this is bad. In terms of the big picture of the transfer portal and just doing away with the 25 and saying that you can just get to 85, and like some of that has some real merit and some good things. That's why they do it. But there's always kind of another side, and sometimes we don't think about it, and that's not something that I was privy to, thinking about, hey, guys are going to commit earlier because they're trying to reserve a spot so they don't give it away to some transfer from Ohio State. Like, it's a whole different deal. So Thought it was interesting. If you missed the entire interview with Brian Polian, go back and check it out on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcast. It was a really good discussion that went on almost 20 minutes with those guys, so it was really, really good stuff. When we come back, teams trying to make a jump in college football. Who's the most likely? We'll have some thoughts on that. ESPN had some thoughts on that as well. It's Hunt and Hill.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt and Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.